Liza Crane by Dorian J. Sinnott. There was a girl in our town who said she could bring animals back from the dead. Young Liza Crane. She claimed she did it from time to time in the forest, birds and squirrels, but the townsfolk never believed her. They'd scold her for telling stories, saying that she'd been pegged a witch, but she never stopped. She insisted that what she said was true, and that she did, indeed, have the gift of rebirth. It was little Jimmy Carbo who was the first to state her claims were true. Though only 8, he was adamant that Liza could return life to the dead.
"I saw her," he proclaimed. "A bird hit the window, and she brought it back."
Everyone was convinced the poor creature had simply gone into shock and recovered. It had not come back from the dead. But little Jimmy Carbo still believed what he had saw, and so word spread through the schoolhouse to the children. Young minds were much more akin to the idea of magic, and so they believed Jimmy, that the stories of Liza were true. So much so, that the day little Mary Bishop's cat died, she carried its lifeless body, wrapped in a blanket, to the porch of Liza Crane. It took longer than it had for the small bird, but without a doubt, Mary heard the corpse in the blanket start to purr.
"Pure magic," she exclaimed. "You brought Callie back."
Of course, Mary's mother and father still were skeptical. They said Callie was gone, and that the new cat they now owned was a replacement. One Liza probably found wandering around to mend a grieving child's heart. But that didn't explain the mannerisms, or the little patch of white on the cat's flank shaped like a heart. It surely did look like Callie, and act like Callie. When word got out about the bishop's family cat, more children began to become intrigued. When their beloved pets passed away, they'd bring their bodies to her. And just like with Callie, one by one, they would be reborn. The parents still wrote it off as coincidence. They said animals were easy to replace, especially the small ones. Liza had to have lookalikes as she swapped out, claiming that she had a gift. But the children argued otherwise. They said they had seen it with their own eyes. The animals that returned home weren't copies. They were, indeed, their beloved pets. After a few months, however, Liza began to not show herself as often. She'd remain in her house, in the dark, away from the outside world. Children would knock on her door, eagerly awaiting her, but oftentimes she wouldn't answer. It was when little Jimmy Carbo's dog passed when she finally did. But she looked tired, so worn down and frail. Yet she agreed to revive the Carbo's dear dog. Only this time, it came with a warning.
"I'm not as well as I used to be,"
Liza said.
"I'm afraid my gift may not be as kind. I can't promise you that this time your dog will come back as he was, so full of life."
Jimmy didn't argue. He simply begged her to breathe new life into his beloved friend.
"It'll take me a few days,"
Liza said,
"but I promise you that he'll return."
And so, Jimmy trusted her word. That was when there were hushed whispers through the streets. The Carbo family had said their dog passed only 3 days before, but now, there he was, sitting on their front porch. At first, just like so many of the others, they attempted to write it off as coincidence, that a dog that looked similar to their recently departed had found its way to their porch. But the markings were the same, and the dog knew who they were instantly. And his collar, inscribed with Rusty and their address, was around his neck. Was what Liza claimed true? The question drifted through town. Maybe she was a witch after all. In a few weeks' time, however, the Carbo family began to notice something off. Their dog mostly laid around, no longer active as he was, and the smell that emanated from him was of decay. They called their vet, reporting his lethargic state and the odor, and were instructed to bring him right in. When they were told, they were unsure if they already knew, or if it truly was shock. Rusty had no heartbeat. The vet claimed that his vitals were non-existent, that it was as if he were a reanimated corpse. It just wasn't possible. Little Jimmy Carbo told his family once again that Liza had brought the dog back, that she was magic. But the sense of happiness that their beloved pet had returned wasn't what was delivered. It was fear. Rusty still laid around, stench growing stronger and harder to bear. He became irritable as well. Whenever anyone went to pet him, he would turn his jowls up and snarl, exposing rotten gums and mucousy saliva. Jimmy no longer attempted to be near his once faithful friend. Yet still, no one had seen Liza Crane. She stayed locked away in her house at the end of the street, curtains drawn. A few townsfolk stopped by and knocked, wanting to ask her about the Carbo's dog, if she had, indeed, been a witch. But she never answered, no matter how many months passed. It was only when a young girl, Kathy May, stopped by the house that Liza reappeared. Kathy pounded on the door, sobbing audibly into the evening air, begging. When Liza finally appeared, she found the young child was holding an infant in her arms. "Please," was all the child said. Kathy May explained that her younger brother had choked on a piece of one of his toys that had become dislodged, that she had tried everything. Her parents had stepped outside to grab something for the family for dinner, and she was terrified of what they would say when they came home. "Please bring Johnny back." Liza was hesitant. She explained to Kathy that her gift only worked on animals, and that even now it was beginning to take its toll on her. She was becoming too weak, too little of her own life. There wasn't enough to spare to revive the infant. But still, Kathy begged, pleaded. The look of desperation in the child's eyes was one that Liza couldn't refuse. With a sigh, she took the lifeless infant from the girl. "You must give me a few days, but he will return." Kathy May's family arrived home to find the lifeless body of their son and their daughter smiling brightly. They were horrified, sobbing and begging to know what had happened. But Kathy assured them that everything would be fine. "He choked, but he'll be okay. Liza's going to bring him back." And sure enough, on the day of the child's funeral, there was a wail from inside the coffin. Baby Johnny had returned, just as Kathy May had said. Now the town was at Liza Crane's door, pounding at it and demanding to see her. They called her a witch, unsure if blessed or cursed. Yet, no matter how hard and loud they hollered, she never appeared. A few of the men were able to break down the door, searching through the house for any sign of Liza. It was only when they reached the master bedroom on the second floor that they found her, lifeless, still, stiff. She looked far older than the young woman she was known to be. As if only the passing of a few months had been a century. Her eyes were sunken in, skin grayed and pulled tight against the bone, and her once light chestnut hair had fallen a silky white. She was nothing how the townspeople remembered. On a dreary autumn morning, they laid Liza Crane to rest beneath an old oak in the cemetery. It wasn't long after that the children began to claim their pets. Once brought back by her gift of life, two began to perish. First the small ones, and then little Jimmy Carbo's dog. Kathy Johnny May's family was the one who took the effect the hardest, however. They already had to witness the loss of Johnny once, and now a second time, late in the night. No one spoke of Liza Crane and her gift after that. Once all the pets and little Johnny were laid to rest, the town claimed that they were believing old stories, that no life had ever been reborn, that they were just caught up in the childish magic of pretend. Yet, as soon as early winter arrived and the snow fell hard, the town couldn't deny what they'd seen beneath the old oak in the cemetery, at Liza Crane's grave. There, protruding from the snow, beautiful spring flowers bloomed, full of life.